peoples, Dakota and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. As a council and a municipality, we will continue to work on moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. I'll ask for a motion for the adoption of the minutes.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held at City Hall on July 10th, 2023 be adopted as circulated.
That's moved by, you guys hear, Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. All those in favor, and that's carried. We have no delegations this evening, but we have a number of public hearings. So we'll move into open our first public hearing for request for variation PC 47-23, Broad Street Properties, LTD 7332981 Manitoba Limited at 1120 Dufferin Avenue East. I will ask if there is anyone here in favor of the application and to speak. If you want to come up to the mic and you just, yeah, can you just make sure that there's a light on there? Just ask you to state your name for the record.
My name's Chris Gibson. I work for Broad Street Properties as their development manager. I'm located in Winnipeg, Manitoba at 570 Camille-Sis. I did submit a document with the for the hearing today. I believe someone was supposed to read it, and then I would be here to answer any questions for you.
Right, I think that council has that document in front of them. And does anyone have any questions for Mr. Gibson at this point? No? No? Okay, great. If we have more, we'll call you.
Okay,
So, thank you. Is there anyone else here in favor, to speak in favor of the application? Do we have any letters to be read out?
No other letters, no.
I'll ask if anyone is present to speak against the application. Once again, anyone against? Any letters to be read out?
No letters.
Just making sure that there's no one here in the gallery that has any questions about this application at this time. Sure. You want to come to the mic and just state your name?
I don't really have any details, so I'm Shane Griffin. I'm owner of Windsor Park Estates, which is right behind the Dufferin Landing there, or Dufferin Villa there, I guess. Dufferin Landing, I think it is. So I assume there was going to be some information here, but I just am here to find out the purpose, because it's right behind our building, and I know they're expanding there. So I don't know if there's any more information that can be given here, or.
Do you have specific questions, or maybe?
No, I just, I guess I just wanted to understand why the application would be for less parking, and how, if that will affect the space that is next door to us, I guess. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Mr. Gibson, did you want to answer that about why you're applying for less parking?
Certainly. So we're asking for less parking because we have a system in place where we monitor all our parking from across Western Canada, especially here in Manitoba, and we can do it by site. Dufferin Landing right now, it's 99 or 97% of capacity. Even with that, we are only sitting at about a one parking space per unit. We have 123 units on the site. So right now we are at code for the bylaw at 1.5 spaces per unit, which means we are very overparked. That's even including with the visitor parking. So from across Canada, or from Western Canada, we have an average about 1.03, 1.09 parking spaces per unit that's allocated, and that's excluding even the visitor parking. We take that out of our allocation just because we can't use that as a designation for us to track. So with that, every site that we're seeing is becoming a little bit overparked. And that means that we have all these vacant spaces that can be used for something else. Be that more units, a little bit more amenity space, and then that way we can provide more for the community as well.
Thank you. Did you have anything to add? Or no? Okay. Mr. Grimm, does that answer your question? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Mass
Sorry.
or Meyer?
Thank you, Your Worship. And sir, I didn't have a question earlier. I just have a question now with the follow-up answer that you have there. So you're saying that you're going to leave this. So your footprint right now is designed with the 100 and number of spaces. So if council denies the application, does that change your footprint on the building at all?
It would change the footprint. If we had to go with 1.5, we would have to make more parking spaces available, which means our footprint would go down. And then we would just have like a massive asphalted area to provide parking for the amount of units that we have.
Sorry, yes. So thank you. It was Mr. Gibbs?
Griffin.
Mr. Griffiths. Sorry, Mr. Griffiths. So
Oh, no, this is Gibson. Sorry.
I'm Gibson. That's Mr.
Oh.
Griffin.
Okay, yeah, sorry, Mr. Gibson then. Thank you,
Yeah,
Your,
sorry.
thank you, Your Worship. So my only question of clarification is, so if council did deny the application, you're saying the apartment building would be different size than what you're currently right now? Like that footprint of the building would have less units in it?
Yes, because we would have to, if we had to match 1.5 units per parking spaces per unit, that means we have to get in 1.5 parking spaces on the land. It's narrower than our adjacent property. So with the amount of demand that's going up in Portage, we did have something different in mind years ago. With that demand, we saw that it was needed, that we needed to add more apartments instead of smaller units or smaller development. So with that, we went with the 118 units across the east side of the property and keeping the parking on the west side, and then it would be connected to our phase one.
So, sorry, just one final follow-up question, Your Worship. So you're saying, sorry, just so I'm clear, that right now the footprint calls for 118 units. If you had to stick with that, what you're saying is that could be reduced down to 96 units is how that would look? Is that?
It depends on how, depending on how we would put our allocation for each block.
Right.
So every block, so we're at 4 stories, so eight units per block. So we
Sure.
would have to start reducing that, and then we would say, okay, we need this amount of this amount of parking. Then we'd say, if that doesn't work, then we have to reduce more. We add more parking in. We have to reduce more to add more parking in. This becomes a large parking lot and less units for the community.
So parking is directly related to the number of units, not
Yes.
really the square footage of the
No,
actual units
no.
themselves. Okay.
No, the units are varying between 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, so at varying square footage. That does not reduce the size of the units. No.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson, and thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Thank you. You sure can. Come on up to the mic. Don't talk till you're at the mic. We're on TV.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Not used to this. No, I just wondered if that would affect the location of the building relative to the property lines, I guess, depending if there's more parking or less parking. Is that a valid question?
If this wasn't passed, and then they would have to go back to the drawing board, I guess, whatever they're going to design, and it could lead to a variation, which have to come back here anyway.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so as approved, or as at the moment, it's already in process for the larger building. Is that correct?
Mr. Prideaux?
So the proposed variation that they're putting forward would allow them to build the building that's up on the screen. I'm sorry if you can see
Yeah.
that, which has the 118 units. And right now the notion is the building would be located on that piece of the parcel of the property. So if there was a variation, as I understand it from Mr. Gibson, that the building shape could be adjusted to allow for more parking if the variation was not approved by council.
Yeah, understood.
Thank you. Okay. Then I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved, and I so move, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Broad Street, Be it resolved, and I so move, that the public hearing for variation PC 4723, Broad Street Properties Limited of 7332981 Manitoba Limited of 1120 Dufferin Avenue East now be closed.
That's moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? And that's carried. And Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the report to Council in front of you, you'll see a couple of different things. First of all, this is for the Planning Economic Development Committee, and of course, the request is for variation, as you've heard. So there is a sketch of the area where this is at, and there's also a complete site plan that's also up on the screen. So the issue is to, as the applicant had indicated, is to vary the minimum parking space to go from 177 spaces, which is required by bylaw, to be reduced down to 137 spaces. There is a letter from Broad Street Properties that indicates the rationale as to why or where they're getting that number from based on their measurements here, their measurements in Canada, and their measurements, of course, across Canada. I just want to point out that's their numbers, certainly not the city's numbers or council's numbers. Let's go here. So the background, as we've already indicated, the Broad Street Properties Limited, or 7332981 Manitoba Limited, are applying for a variation order to vary the minimum parking space requirement of 177 spaces to be reduced to 137. As council may be aware, it is in an R3 residential multifamily zone. The application has been circulated to various city departments. There was a concern, I'm not sure from where, but it was concerned that with other apartment blocks in the area and parking allowed only on one side of the street, for council's reference, that's on the north side of the street, and you got the clinic on the south side, that there's minimal additional capacity for street parking at this location. Public notices have been sent to all property owners with a 100-meter radius. There have been no objections, but of course we recognize the comments from the individual that was here. So it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move, that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Broad Street Properties Limited, 7332981 Manitoba Limited, to vary the minimum parking space requirement of 177 spaces to be reduced to 137 spaces at the property known as 1120 Dufferin Avenue East, which is legally described as Lot 2, Plan 64028 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
That's moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Does council have any questions or comments? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Worship. I certainly don't really have any questions at this point in time. The comments are, I believe, strongly as the applicant had indicated, that allowing this, and I will certainly be speaking in favor of it, is that it does allow more units that are available, specifically in an area that has been growing rapidly. Personally, I've also taken a drive since we were aware of this, not only at the busy times through the night, well, not too bad through the night, but through the night, on the weekend, right around early morning time and everything else, and there have not been really any kind of congestion that I saw. The only congestion, council, that I saw was just during construction, and that was due to all the vehicles and so on. So there could be short-term congestion, but I think once the building is built, I think that the parking spaces certainly are sufficient for what they're trying to accomplish. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Meyer, I don't think you're the only one who did drive through there to see what the congestion was and have the same feelings that it is, what do we say, about a 70% capacity right now? So, yeah. No other questions? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, we will open our next public hearing, which is a request for variation for PC 50-23 FT Architecture Landscape Interior Design, HMQ Manitoba, at 2 River Road. I will ask if there is anyone here to speak in favor of the application. Please come. Please state your name.
I'm Gerald Peters with FT3 Architecture Landscape Interior Design, and I'm just here to answer any questions if there are any.
Excellent. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Peters at this time? Councillor Meyer?
Thank you, Worship. Mr. Peters, thank you for showing up for this. The only question I have is, what's it for?
The variance is for the height of the building,
Yep.
the new hospital building.
Yeah, no, I get that part.
And it's primarily because of the height of the penthouse. The
Really?
mechanical penthouse on top of the building is very tall.
Okay. And we do have the drawing there, and of course, so that's just the only portion of the building that you're talking about would exceed the height requirement.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions of him? Nope. Is there anyone else here in favor of the application? Any letters to be read out?
No, there are no letters.
Anyone here to speak against the application? Any letters to be read out?
No, no letters.
Thank you. Is there anyone here with just questions about the application? Thank you. I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Your Worship. Be it resolved, and I so move, that the public hearing for variation PC 50-23, FT3 Architecture Landscape Interior Design, HMQ Manitoba, at Two River Road now be closed.
That is moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? And that is carried. Councillor Meyer.
Sorry here. I apologize, but it looks like my battery might be close to being dying. So I will be brief, but stop me if you have any questions. Okay. The issue, of course, for Planning Economic Development Committee applicant, of course, FT3 Architectural Landscape Interior Design, and Her Majesty the Queen of Manitoba. So the issue is just to vary the maximum building height, as Mr. Peters so eloquently stated, for height requirement of 9.1 meters to be increased to 17.6 meters. This is required because it's now in an open space or recreational zone. So the background is just indicated. The application has been circulated to various city departments. There have been no concerns. Public notices have been sent to all property owners within 100-meter radius, and there have been no objections. As you can see, the sketch is there for your information as well. So that said, it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of FT3 Architectural Landscape Interior Design, Her Majesty the Queen, Manitoba, to vary the maximum building height requirement of 9.1 meters to be increased to 17.6 meters in an OR or open space recreational zone at the property known as Two River Road, which is legally described as Parish Lot 70 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments? Just a comment is that sometimes the build of this new site happens when we're not paying attention, so it's nice to see things like this come to our table to remind us of the great thing coming to our city. So
Agreed.
all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. I'll open public hearing request for variation PC 51-23, Paramount Investment Corp., 540, 560 13th Street Northwest be now open. I'll ask if there's anyone here to speak in favor of this application. Once again, anyone in favor? Any letters to be read out?
Nope, no letters.
Anyone against this application? Any letters to be read out?
No.
Anyone with questions? I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Be it resolved, and I so move, that the public hearing for variation PC 51-23, Paramount Investment Corp. for 540 and 560 13th Street Northwest now be closed.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. All those in favor? That's carried. Move to Councillor Meyer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And the council in front of you, another request for variation for Paramount Investment Corporation. This is to allow conditions of a subdivision, number 4550-21-8044. The sketch is there for your drawing. It's also up on the TV screen. And what they're asking is for units 1 to 6, 7 to 12, and 13 to 18 of the sketch, is that the site area requirement of 920 square meters to be reduced to 767 square meters. The site width requirement of 30.5 meters to be reduced to 29.26. For units 19 to 21, the site area requirement of 836 square meters to be reduced to 383.5. And the site width requirement of 22.9 to be reduced to 14.63, as you can see by the footprint there as well. And then units 22 to 24, the site width requirement of 30.5 meters to be reduced down to 28.95. As I mentioned, they're applying for variation order in order to follow for the condition of the subdivision. The property is in the R3 residential multifamily zone already. And the rationale is that the applicant would like to create a bare land condominium to facilitate a multi-unit residential neighborhood that will have 27 bare land units. And as you can see by the drawing, also a shared common element. So the application has been circulated to city departments. There's been no concerns, and public notices have been sent to all property owners within a 100-meter radius. And as you can see, there's been no objections. So it's the administrative recommendation, and I so move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the variation request of Paramount Investment Corporation to vary the following as per condition of subdivision number 4550-21-8044. Units 1 to 6, 7 to 12, and 13 to 18, that the side area requirements of 920 square meters to be reduced to 767 square meters. The site width requirement of 30.5 to be reduced to 29.26 meters. And that units 19 to 21, the site area requirements of 836.1 square meters to be reduced to 383.5, and the site width requirement of 22.9 to be reduced to 14.63 meters. And finally, for units 22 to 24, that the site width requirement of 30.5 meters to be reduced to 28.95. At the property known as 540, 560 13th Street Northwest, which is legally described as lots A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and I, Plan 2156-8 in the parish of Portage la Prairie.
Moved by Councillor Meyer, seconded by Councillor Nichols. Any questions or comments from council? All those in favor? And that's carried. That ends our public hearings. We'll move into Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Finance, Legislative, and Property has no report at this time in the meeting.
Thank you. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Worship. City Planning Economic Development Committee has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Community Services Committee has nothing to report at this portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing to report at this time of the meeting.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Transportation Committee has nothing to report.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Public Safety has nothing to report in this portion of the meeting.
Thank you. We have no deferred business. We'll move right into new business. We have Agassiz Youth Center Land Transfer Agreement, Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship and colleagues. This evening, we're considering the offer from the province of Manitoba to transfer approximately 26 acres of land to the city of Portage la Prairie. And of course, we have the option to approve this or decline approval of this proposal. As you know, on March 24th, 2022, the province of Manitoba announced it would close the Agassiz Youth Center and remediate the grounds for the purpose of the building of a new regional hospital facility within the city of Portage. The province of Manitoba has determined that it will not require the full land parcel formerly occupied by AYC and has offered to transfer approximately 26 acres of surplus land to the city of Portage la Prairie for future development. This land parcel has been surveyed and is legally identified as parcels A and B on Schedule A of the agreement. And an aerial map of the parcel is also attached. There is no cost related to the transfer of the land. However, the city of Portage la Prairie will be responsible for all costs related to closing as outlined in the agreement. The land currently has several encumbrances, including buildings, utility infrastructure, fences, and a number of other items that could impede future development. At the request of the city, the province has committed to remove these encumbrances as outlined in Schedule B of the agreement. Schedule C of the agreement highlights the Echo Foxtrot unit, Lakewood unit, and related infrastructure that the city will have 180 days from the signing of the agreement to consider for future use. During that period, the city can decide to keep the buildings or ask the province to remove them. The city currently has no municipal use in mind for these buildings, but it is possible a third party could have use for these buildings in the future. The 26 acres of land have significant potential for future commercial and residential development for the city of Portage la Prairie. This parcel has reasonable access to water and infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure, but an additional lift station would likely be required for significant development. Additionally, for full development potential of the land parcel, upgrades will have to occur to the current intersection at Crescent Road East and River Road with the development of a new roadway. So that's the background, Council, and the recommendation from administration, and I'm prepared to move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie approve the transfer agreement between the City of Portage la Prairie and the Province of Manitoba as presented, and authorize the Mayor and City Manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the city.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments from council? No? All those in favor? And that's carried. Another item of new business, withdraw from reserve for development of Agassiz land. Again, Finance, Legislative and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship and colleagues. The issue now is that we've approved the previous proposal is the authorization of withdrawal of funds from the General Infrastructure Reserve for the development of land formerly known as Agassiz Youth Centre. And the alternatives, of course, are to authorize the withdrawal or to not authorize the withdrawal of these funds. And in the background, with the city obtaining ownership of the land where the Agassiz Youth Centre was previously located, administration is preparing to begin the planning and design stages of development in this area. Required work will include roads, land drainage, and street front improvements. Sufficient funds are available in the General Infrastructure Reserve, and this reserve will require a resolution from Council to access the funds. The administrative recommendation, and I'm prepared to move that the Council of the City of Portage la Prairie authorizes the withdrawal of up to $1 million from the General Infrastructure Reserve for work related to the development of the land formerly known as Agassiz Youth Centre.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments on this? My comment would just be that I think previous council and this council is very conscious of growth in our community, and I think that this falls under that with having new land and being able to make it useful new land. And I just think it just shows the fiscal responsibility that we have, that we're able to move this reserve money and have it available for whatever so happens with that land in the future. So kudos to previous councils and to administration for helping us be in that position. So, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. It's a busy night, Councillor Massey. New business, JQ Built Daycare lease agreement with WeWorld Daycare, Inc., Finance, Legislative and Property Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Colleagues, we've talked about the daycare for some time now, and I'm pleased this evening to bring in our proposal to a lease agreement with WeWorld Daycare to operate a licensed daycare center providing up to 74 childcare spots. The background is that, as you know, the province of Manitoba provided a capital funding grant to develop new childcare spaces in a new childcare center in partnership with John Q. Public Incorporated / JQ Built Incorporated and the City of Portage la Prairie. The city passed a resolution on November 14, 2022 to enter into a financial assistance agreement with the province of Manitoba. JQ Built was established by the board of John Q. Public Incorporated to develop a replicable process for facilitating the development of community infrastructure with local governments across Manitoba. And the city passed a resolution on December 12th, 2022 to enter into a general service agreement with JQ Built Incorporated. JQ Built issued a public request for proposal for licensed nonprofit childcare service organizations to operate the daycare facilities, and a joint subcommittee representing the city and the RM of Portage la Prairie evaluated the proposals for this facility. And as you recall, on March 27th, 2023, the city accepted the proposal from We World Daycare, Inc. as the child care service organization to operate the child care facility in the city of Portage la Prairie. The lease agreement has been prepared, setting out the terms of the lease and the city-owned facility located at 2500 Park Drive to We World Daycare. Effective October 1, 2023, the agreement addresses the following. It's a 15-year rent-free lease to We World Incorporated. The city and RM are going to provide building support services, maintenance, and repairs. The city of Portage la Prairie and the RM of Portage la Prairie to provide site maintenance, snow clearing, and grass cutting. And We World Daycare Incorporated will pay for the facilities. The administrative recommendation, and I would move that the council of the city of Portage la Prairie approve the lease agreement between the city of Portage la Prairie and We World Daycare Incorporated as presented, and authorize the mayor and city manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the city.
Moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions or comments? Councillor Meyer, I see your green light on.
Sorry, yes, thank you, Your Worship. Not really a question, just a comment. I'm just so excited to see the next step of this project. We understand 72 childcare spots is certainly not going to solve all the childcare needs that we do have in our growing community, but it's certainly going to have a big effect on it. I also wanted to take another opportunity to recognize the partnership with the RM. It's just another example of how we've been able to work together for not only the economic benefit of our city, but of the entire region. And I'm so proud of the relationship that we have with the RM. So to see this final step taking place to actually finalize the lease, and I certainly thank the administration for doing the work that they did in order to get it to this point. It's just another example of the way this city is moving and another positive stroke on the entire community itself. So I just really wanted to express that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. Anyone else? It's a great looking building, I might add. So all those in favor? And that's carried. I'm going to go off script here a little bit, and I do know that we have a couple of representatives from We World in the gallery. So I would ask if they could come to the podium, or one anyway. Just state your names if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Sydney Dubet-Zacharias. I'm the Executive Director of We World Daycare.
And I'm Candace Woodward. I'm the chair of the board of directors of We World Daycare.
Awesome, thank you. Just thought we'd say congratulations on this. Looking forward to this. And have you had the chance to see the facility?
Yeah, we had a tour a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we are very excited, especially going in. I look at it and it would be exactly what I would design.
Oh.
I went in and I personally had no changes or thoughts of I tweak this. No, we are so excited and just full of energy and ideas for this center.
Excellent. So October 1st, right? And I just had a message come over last night of somebody asking me when the new daycare was opening. So I said, I'll maybe ask tomorrow. Do you have any ideas to when you would be able to start taking?
We don't have a set date
Okay.
yet, but we are looking like to early October. I know we've talked with Nathan about being able to get stuff in early, be able to start setting up to get all of our licensing done and everything we need to prior to October if needed.
So this fall, as we
Yes,
can
this
say.
fall.
And just as a daycare, we're also looking already at, even for the last couple of months, at employment, like trying to already find, we already have people lined up to move to that center already.
Great. People like to work in new buildings, right? Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions or comments from them? No? No? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another item of new business, second quarter financial statements and projected year-end balances. Again, Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Your Worship, and colleagues. This evening, we are to approve the 2023 Quarter 2 financial statements and review the information provided for projected year-end balances. The city's fiscal year is the calendar year with quarters ending March 31 and June 30th and September 30th and December 31st. Administration provides detailed financial statements to the City Council on a quarterly basis beginning in the second quarter for their approval. The Finance Department gathers information from all management responsible for the financial results in their own areas regarding the projected year-end balances and variances. And there you can see below for the general fund, for revenue, we have a projected surplus of $490,000, and the explanations are there provided for you. Big reason, of course, is the operating municipal operating grant, which was increased. Under expenses, you can see there the $288,000, a combination of $270,000 in additional interest revenue due to higher than anticipated interest rates, and some $18,000 in additional revenue. And I won't go through the rest, but you can see where we are at on the general side. On the utility side, you can see a projected surpluses and the expenses. You can tell what they're for. And so overall, this is a very positive financial statement for our city. And I want to recognize our financial staff and Jen Sadney and her team for doing great work and keeping us in line financially. And we, at this point, look very healthy financially. So this is for your information, but the recommendation is that the Council of the City of Portage approve the 2023 Quarter 2 financial statements.
That's moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Meyer. Any questions on those, anybody? All those in favor? And that's carried. Another item of new business, we have our June building reports. City Planning and Economic Development Committee, Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Worship. You know, it's a good day when I get to read about the building reports. Obviously, we know from many conversations, the building reports really give us the facts in regards to the actual expansion that's going on within our city. So I really want to just point out a couple of things, being brief. Of course, we always look at the RM and we look at the city, but I do always kind of refer to the combined because we do it from a regional perspective. So you're going to see that the permits similar to last year. We knew that there would actually, we thought there would be a bit of a reduction this year, but of course with the introduction of the hospital, I think you're going to find that the dollar value is almost identical year over year with the same number of permits that are around. A couple of real things, quick things to point out. The new single, new double, new multi, repair and mobile home portion is consistent with the way it was last year, so it's good to see the growth going on with that. Commercial is a little bit different. You're going to see a larger percentage going into repair, which is shows you that people are investing back in their buildings and so on, which shows you the sign of a solid, stable building community as well. The biggest change you're going to see is institutional, and of course that $23.5 million refers to the hospital. The rest of the stuff is pretty status quo year over year. We are seeing a bit of a reduction on the RTM side, but I think that's just more of a timing thing than anything else. So Council, year over year, 120 permits at 39 million last year and 119 permits at 42 million this year. So I'd like to see what it is over the last 4 or 5 years. It's been pretty significant investment within our community. So every time I look at these reports, there's nothing that really gets me a lot more excited when I think about the expansion and the growth within our city. Any questions on that, as we do have planning district representatives here as well?
Any questions, Council?
And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer. This is these are one of my favorite meetings, is the quarterly reports. I think we learn a lot during these about all the great things happening. So we'll first move into City Planning and Economic Development, second quarter report from Pred.
Thank you, Your Worship. And this just goes right along with building reports as well, because it shows the work that's being done by our Economic Development Office, which we also know is a regional strategy between the RM of Portage and the City of Portage la Prairie. So I'd like to introduce our Executive Director and for Pred, our Chief Executive, I forget the terminology, but anyways, I'd like to hand it over to Ms. O'Leary. She can present the second quarter Pred report.
Wrong button, sorry. Thank you, Councillor Meyer, and good evening, Council and members of the public and colleagues. PRED is a regional economic development agency that is predominantly the city and the RM of Portage la Prairie, so really focusing on that regional approach. So when we look at the last quarter, it's been a busy quarter like every organization in Portage la Prairie, but just a little bit about PRED. We focus on investment attraction, business retention and expansion, providing economics and statistics to our business community so they can make effective decisions, and then also the tourism portfolio as well. In this quarter two report, we've also included our board of directors who do a lot of the governance work and the under the iceberg work to ensure that PRED is sustainable and meeting the mandate of providing a successful environment for investment. So we do have our board members, and you will see there that PRED is expanding on their board of directors and will be appointing a new member in late 2023. PRED continues to work with a variety of partners, and we're just highlighting some of the partners with the provincial and federal government. So we did have a meeting there with Invest in Canada and the province of Manitoba promoting the regional work that's been undertaken. We can finally start talking about some of those larger investment attraction projects that have been in the works for the last few years. So the Azure Sustainable Fuels Corporation open house and announcement was in June. PRED continues to foster an environment for success. NEM had made an excellent presentation to our youth on the economic impact of newcomers, and that was in partnership with PLIP. We did finalize some interactive tools, and we continue to promote the unique concierge service across Canada. And in April, we attended the British Columbia Economic Developers Association conference and spoke about the regional efforts. We attained $75,000 for the Building Sustainable Communities grant, and then we continue to provide economic statistics to potential investors, stakeholders, and community partners. And last but not least, just on this, and there is more information if there is any other questions, that we did hire a tourism coordinator until April 2024, as tourism is a huge economic driver here, and the PRED board really understands the need to move that portfolio forward. The Portage Economic Response Team is working on a variety of projects as well. The regional community profile was launched this quarter, and we're also focusing now on our interactive tools that are now live on the Invest in Portage website. And now we're moving into our regional economic development strategy for the next quarter. Investment attraction, we continue to see an uptake in investment attraction inquiries, and we work with our internal investment team on a regional basis to ensure that we have the capacity and the needs to make sure those investments happen. You'll also see there a sneak peek of the new interactive marketing tools on our website. So really focuses on the logistic advantages, market advantages, the talent pipeline advantages, and a variety of other statistics that are very critical when attracting new business, but also allowing our current businesses to expand as well. You will see the information there on the Azure announcement and where that is. So as this is out in the open, PRED will be continuing to communicate updates frequently to the public and council on that. You will see that PRED was also, as I discussed at PCI, doing their lecture on the economic impacts of new businesses to Portage la Prairie and newcomers. And then also one item that PRED is focusing now is the new business counts that focuses on new businesses, change of ownership and succession, closed businesses, and then business expansion. So it gives us a little bit of a benchmark to assess where we are as a region. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. O'Leary?
No questions. I just want to make one final comment. Of course, as one of 1,400 communities our size across the country, I really strongly believe that we've become somewhat of a gold standard in relationship to our economic strategy and where we're at today. And I strongly attribute that to Ms. O'Leary and her team, who've worked together with not only the city, but the RM. And we have a strong industrial group that we work together with as well. And again, it just really sets the standard and the base for future economic development within our city. And like the building reports, reading these reports gets me excited the same way about where our community is growing. So, Ms. O'Leary, thank you so much for everything you do, and the team that the incredible team that you have working with you on that. So,
Thank you. Just a comment on, we're right in the middle of tourism season, and I've definitely seen an uptick on our Island of the Prairies theme. We just had a major event here in Portage, which was a tourism event, and the Potato Festival that was part of our tourism group strategy. But we had visitors who came into our city from a whole group of visitors from Winnipeg, I think about 12 of them, that stopped because they saw the information about what was happening in our city on our drive, and they were on their way to the Peace Gardens, and they came in and had a great time at the Potato Festival, as well as we had a couple from Denmark who were traveling through Canada, same thing, came for some free fries and pancake breakfast and loved our city. So just great things happening from the tourism office there, and that we know it'll continue and expand. So well done. Okay, Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got a number of second quarter reports tonight. The first one being that of the Youth Councillor, and Councillor McCullough is here. And through Your Worship, I would like to invite her to present her report.
Thank you.
So this past quarter, I have attended city council meetings, planned and held a 5K family fun run/walk where we raised $1,100 for the Family Resource Center. I donated money to the Touch Truck event as well as ice cream for the bike week. And I also had an interview with CBC about being youth counselor.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on Ms. McCullough's report? Councillor Massey?
Not a question, but last council meeting, we had a developer come who also is the mayor of East St. Paul, Carla Devlin. And she pulled me aside and said, "Who's over there?" And I told her, and she got so excited that we had a youth rep that I think she's going to bring that forward to their council. And I think that's the impact you have, is that when we see other elected officials, it puts the seed in their mind that this is a good thing to involve young people. So just wanted to share that with you, Your Worship, and the impact that you do have by being here.
He's definitely right. We sent all the information her way for how they could implement it, so it was great. Well, Paige, this is it. It's your last meeting. So we would like to call you up for a little presentation, if that's okay. Councillor SB2. So we're just going to give you a plaque that says, to Paige McCullough, presented in appreciation for serving as the youth member of council for the city of Portage la Prairie from 2022 to 2023. So we're very proud of you, and we know that you're going on to do great things and study hard. So there you go. That's a great picture. Thank you, Councillor Espy.
Okay. Moving on, the next report is from PCRC, and Executive Director Mary Kozar is here. So through Your Worship, I would like to invite her to present her report.
Thank you. PCRC has had a number of initiatives to promote community development over the past quarter. The Local Immigration Partnership Program and the Communities Building Youth Futures Program supported a free Ukrainian concert, which saw 160 attendees. The LIP program presented at a national conference in PEI on what LIP programs are and working on reconciliation efforts. in partnership with our Indigenous Community Coordinator. Together for Change Week in June included social media campaigns, a free movie night, a cultural music gathering, free cultural Grubhub night, and a diversity walk. This was supported by LIP, CBYF, and our Community Engagement Coordinator. LIP staff teamed up with CBYF, PLLC, and Red River College to plan a series of employment workshops. The first in-person citizenship ceremony since COVID was held in Portage la Prairie on July 1st, and it was very well received. They would like to come back and do another one. CBYF held a paint night with Ken Biggity, a Northern Manitoba Indigenous artist. The Biggity and Biggity Puppet Show was held for Earth Day, which saw 200 attendees at this free waitlisted event. This was a CBYF Indigenous Community Coordinator and Connecting Community Program partnership, and it was funded by the Indigenous Reconciliation and Northern Relations Fund and the Community Celebrations Fund. CBYF did 2 presentations for Tamarack conferences on the roving campus and sustainability, and they also supported Long Plain Pride events in June. Our spring small grants saw 5 organizations approved. The PCI Parent Advisory Council received $5,000 for basketball upgrades. The Family Resource Center saw $5,000 approved for summer programming. Big Brothers Big Sisters received $1,600 for summer programming. Crescent View School received almost $2,200 for playground upgrades. Portage Bear Clan received $2,500 for the Bear Necessity Program, which provides a free place for people to shower and do laundry. The community facilitator also assisted in attaining 2 large grants for the Parks Committee. Almost $9,000 was secured through the Building Sustainable Communities Fund for PCRC building upgrades, which includes finishing off our lower level with flooring since last year's unexpected building maintenance issues. Heritage Canada funding was approved for $10,000 for land-based activities for September 30th events, and the Community Services Recovery Grant was approved through the United Way for $30,000 for tech upgrades and media capacity building at PCRC. There was a sold-out gardening workshop. Bike Week was held for the first time since 2019, and there was 11 events, including a free barbecue, bike rodeo, bike to the museum, yoga in the park, and many more. Spring Beautification Days saw 400 people participate in cleanups. Close to 1,900 boxes of food were distributed through Second Harvest to over 15 organizations, which included schools. Touch a Truck was held during Public Works Week, and it saw more vehicles than ever and over 600 people in attendance. So it was a huge success. The PCRC mascot, Ajitamu, was debuted and a coloring contest was held. The first phase of the art walkway was completed, with all schools participating in creating signs of the 7 sacred teachings and 1 sign for Every Child Matters, and they've all been installed at Island Park. Wawokia Reaching Home and the Indigenous Seniors Resource Program continue to be very busy supporting vulnerable clients in our community, and those staff participate in regular continuing education to stay up to date on innovative approaches to social issues. Wawokia remains active on the Manitoba Community Mobilization and Safety Initiatives Network, and the Men's Shed has remained strong. They get together twice a month, and they also built a shed this spring with McMunn and Yates, and it was raffled off. National Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations on the island were supported by CBYF, Connecting Communities, and the Indigenous Seniors Resource Coordinator. There were multiple TP setups and cultural teachings done by PCRC staff at different elementary schools throughout May and June. And we are busy planning more events and writing further proposals to leverage funding for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. If there's no questions, I will move on to the next one.
No questions. just comments, obviously. A lot going on. Mary, I was wondering if next council meeting, if we could ask you, so I often get asked by people about our homeless population or unhomed people in the community, and I know that PCRC has a lot of resources that maybe isn't just something one specific, whether it's reaching home or bare necessities, etc. Would it be possible to get some sort of presentation to council from you or your staff members or whoever, so that we could fully understand, like maybe some hypothetical specific ways that you sort of help one person where they're at to get them to where they are now? Because I think that's important for our community to know, because they just specifically think, well, we don't have a homeless shelter, so we're not helping these people. So the more information we can give people, maybe we can also help people get those resources as well. Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Espy.
All right, next up is the Heritage Committee, and I will present this report. 2 summer students funded by the St. Claude Archive have worked diligently digitizing historical materials from the PCI archive. The material will be uploaded to Historic Photographs of Manitoba, and there is a link included in the report. 2 meetings have taken place regarding the design of Indigenous-themed signs on Crescent. PCRC Heritage Committee's application for provincial funding was approved. This walking tour will guide visitors from the National Indigenous Residential School Museum along Crescent Road and the island and toward the Fort Lorraine Museum. Approval from the mayor and city manager regarding replacing existing heritage signs on Crescent Road was received. The designs have been forwarded to the sign maker. The new design will incorporate decals that are easily replaceable. The Portage General Hospital Foundation has provided initial approval to proceed with a new volume of Portage la Prairie photographs as a fundraiser for the new hospital. I've received a few boxes of archival documents related to the hospital's history. Research has started. Several heritage queries were responded to. We continue to communicate with the curator of the FLR Museum and have secured a few interesting donations and loans of items. We are planning further partnerships. Emma has been doing excellent work leading the museum. Alan Brown, a former Portage la Prairie resident, is writing a comprehensive history of Portage la Prairie. We are planning a second edition of Historic Photographs of Portage la Prairie, 1870 to 1939, which will be expanded and revised. Special guests to our July meeting include Mitch Tilk, who will discuss progress on an app to support city heritage, and Tom McCartney, who will inform the committee on Portage Heritage, Inc. Long-serving Heritage Committee member Les Green continues to provide valuable heritage advice from Douglas Campbell Lodge. He doesn't mind phone calls or emails. If you call, speak up, please, in quotes. On behalf of our committee, I thank our MLA Ian Wishart for supporting Manitoba's heritage. His enthusiasm for all things Portage la Prairie is greatly appreciated. We wish him all the best in his retirement, and this is provided by James Kostachuk. Next on the list is the Portage Parks Committee. I will present this report, and then we will actually hear representatives from the Parks Committee present to us in committee. Activities completed this quarter.
Excuse me, sorry. You just need to speak up a little bit, Councillor Espy, according to tech.
See, I'm getting old. The closer I get to my screen, the harder it is to see.
Thank you.
PPC received financial contributions sufficient for the construction of Rotary Skate Park. City of Portage reviewed financial contributions and gave consent for the project to move forward. Activities begun this quarter. PPC continued fundraising for Simplot Central Park, continued ongoing planning towards development of Simplot Central Park, continued to work with Portage Citizen towards getting wheelchair accessible swings, planned the transition construction towards a mid-August construction start date, spoke with local business regarding possible in-kind donations, began planning for sponsor signage throughout the park, and the goals for the next quarter, at the risk of burying the lead, complete construction of Rotary Skate Park.
Thank you. And Councillor Espy, we're going to see the skateboard park on committee.
We are, yes.
Yep.
A presentation will happen. in committee. Next up is Public Art Committee. Activities completed for the quarter. Kevin McKenzie delivered the first draft of his concept to the committee. The committee has gone back to Kevin with notes and adjustments they'd like to see. The first revision should be coming back to committee by mid-August. Activities begun this quarter. Committee has requested revisions to Kevin's first concept submission, and Kevin has agreed to take into consideration and return with requests in mind. And the goals for the next quarter are to approve the suggestions for concept, budget, and location for installation, and be ready to present for council's final approval. And that concludes all of my quarterly reports.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Espy at all? Thank you for all that information. We have public safety, second quarter reports. Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. For our second quarter bylaw enforcement report, I'll turn it over to the Director of Public Safety, Chief Bailey, to give you some highlights from his report.
We have the bylaw enforcement is here to speak on the report.
Welcome, Mr. Adamski.
My apologies.
You can come to the mic there, sir. You're up.
Evening, Council, Your Worship. Whoop, this is new. Bylaw has been busy for us. Major increase in calls, complaints regarding yards, back lanes not being upkept. We saw some new staff come and go as temp relief, but now they've moved into a full-time position. And our auto chalk has been up and down just with some software glitches and upgrades, but it is running smoothly as far as I know as of today. We saw a total revenue for the second quarter of $16,735. It's about half of what was last year, but that could be due to the auto chalk being down for quite some time. 39 animals impounded, 318 calls for service. Roughly bylaw summed up.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Adamski? Maybe a little more explanation on the auto chat, like the trouble we've been having there with the.
It seemed like there were, we had some hardware issues. There was a radar sensor that had broke, so that put us down for a while until we found a proper one. City Yard helped us put that back in. We had some software upgrades. The way AutoChalk works is every time Microsoft or Windows upgrades, it kind of knocks everything out of sync with AutoChalk, so then we have to relink up with Ontario. They help us out, get everything going again. They've helped us up till the last couple of weeks. We haven't had any glitches, so let's cross our fingers that it's still working. They will do over-the-phone services for us, but other than that, they can't really help us out anymore, and that's Tannery from Ontario. So
The numbers are a little surprising to me, just because
they are low.
Yeah, like because I mean, the amount of messages and phone calls I get on bylaw-related issues to see, that we're down quite a bit, but. What about why the bylaw-related revenue do you think is so down?
There wasn't a lot of animal calls this second quarter, which is a big one. We're seeing a lot more animals being licensed since we first started this about 3 years ago. So it seems like the public is on top of it more than our education and our finding in the first 3 years have really paid off, I would guess, for the public's view on it. We have been stuck a few times in the last quarter. We had an outbreak in the pound of parvo, which shut down all intakes for 3 weeks over the 2. That was complemented by the province's outbreak on parvo, rabies, feline leukemia. Like, the diseases are just blowing up in the province. So we can't move animals out of the facility right now. So we've had animals being stayed there for quite some time, which is unfortunate. All of our rescues, they're looking at 50, 60 days with animals in care. They can't get them out of the province. So it's being felt across the board. So we're turning a lot of people away. Sorry, we can't take animals in right now, which could be our calls down as well.
Gotcha. Councillor Massey, did you have something? Yeah.
A little bit on Your Worship, what you asked was on my mind as well. But just a question. You know, this is very important for a community. I've seen municipalities over the years. This can really hurt communities if bylaw enforcement isn't done well. But I'm just curious, like particularly since COVID, and you know, we've read all kinds of theories around people being a little more agitated, more, you know, on defensive maybe when government comes to their doors. How are you finding the reaction of people? I mean, you're there to enforce bylaw, which is often a confrontational kind of experience, could be. How do you handle that, and then where do you sort of draw the line in terms of safety with calling the police instead of yourselves? Can you just give me a little bit on that, on those two things, reaction of people, but also as things escalate, particularly if you go back and you're more forceful and so on, how where does the police kick in then at that point?
It isn't a day in bylaw if whoever's answered the phone hasn't been yelled or swore at 2 or 3 times a day. There is very confrontational people. They don't like what they get in the mail, whether it's a fine or an order. But at the same time, we're able to de-escalate 99% of those with just reading the order to them. This is what's wrong. This is what has to be fixed. As for in the public, as soon as it gets escalated, I request my officer step back. We have a really good relationship with the police, and they're there right away for us. We have not had a physical altercation with anybody in 3 years. Police have been there for our assistance. If it's a known or a repeat, or you know, we have that feeling where something's going to escalate, we'll get the police there right away anyway, before we even go there. So we'll go there, and they'll come to keep the peace. The officers are trained in use of force, but we haven't had to use it yet. So thankfully.
One other question, Your Worship. Do you provide, or do your employees have taken courses on conflict resolution or de-escalating conflict? Or have you? I know there are courses out there on things like that. Have you participated in any of those, or do you provide any of that from time to time for your employees?
So the province doesn't require bylaw officers to be trained, but all my staff are licensed actually as security guards. So we do take. It is a 80-hour course. It's online. There's a lot of de-escalation techniques that you learn through theory. Myself and another officer are both former and retired correctional officers, so we have a magnitude of training through them. Our supervisor is trained through Corps Commissionaires. She received a lot of training through them. Our brand new staff is green. You can see her deer in the headlights when she gets some nasty phone calls and stuff. So you just kind of whisper in her ear, talk her down. But so far, all of our staff are fairly trained. We're getting our new one, Miss Caskey, fully trained up. But I do provide all of my officers with the handcuff, the baton, and the dog spray training. We have a couple other tools that we use for animals, but my apologies.
Good. Any other questions? Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That is all for my second quarter reports.
Great, thank you. And I'll just mention to people that just to holidays that we're going to see our CMP report on our next agenda. Okay, thank you. There's no items of old business. We'll adjourn council at 7:10 p.m. and we will move right into committee at 7:10 p.m. I'll call committee to order. We have Finance, Legislative, and Property Committee, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Colleagues, on August 1, I was pleased to attend an event in Gimli. The mayor asked me to represent mayor and council, where some new infrastructure funding was announced for municipalities outside of Winnipeg, and that's really important. And as I said to the mayor, I said it was worth the trip. It was a great ride there and back, but it was really worth the trip. What was announced there is a new $70.6 million infrastructure funding, and it'll be delivered in 2 programs. For the city of Portage, the first will be a $39.9 million distribution directly to municipalities on a per capita basis. So very similar to the gas tax. It's for infrastructure, but you can use it to see whatever priorities you have. And based on the population of Portage la Prairie and outside of Winnipeg, we received confirmation that the city of Portage, this will result in a one-time transfer of $1,017,426 for local infrastructure related priorities. So this will allow us to look at projects and look at priorities in the upcoming budget that we're starting. The remaining funds will be distributed to municipalities through the Municipal Economic Development Infrastructure Program. This program will focus on funding local projects through and this will be an application process, closing in early October. And our administration is already in the process of preparing our applications for this program to best leverage our local resources with this new funding for important local infrastructure projects. And so this will be an application-based program. The Municipal Economic Development Infrastructure Program requires all project applications to be supported by a council resolution, and I look forward to presenting these projects priorities to the City Council in late September for your consideration. So, great news, and I want to thank the Association of Manitoba Municipalities for their lobbying, and they worked hard on this file, and we've saw significant increases now for our upcoming budget that we will be considering as council. I do want to thank Mayor Knox for sending me there. It was great to renew acquaintances with some old friends, but also to hear firsthand the announcement. And I think this will be something that we will be chewing on as our budget deliberations continue over the next number of months. So that's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. Anybody have any questions on that? Definitely good news for our municipality. We'll move into City Planning and Economic Development Committee. Councillor Meyer.
Thank you, Your Worship. City Planning Economic Development Committee has nothing to report in committee tonight.
Thank you. Community Services Committee, Councillor Espy.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have 2 presentations tonight, and the first one will be from the PCRC, and I would like to invite Mary Kozar to make that presentation.
So this is an update for council on our affordable housing projects. So this was funding that was flowed from Manitoba Housing to municipalities, and then the City of Portage tasked this to PCRC, and that was previously done under the last council. So some of you don't have the full background on these projects, but I'm happy to answer any questions too at the end of this. So we have the first-time homebuyer program called the Home Roots program, and we've successfully moved 1 family through that program. So we have seen some challenges with it, primarily due to markets. So when we started it, like mortgage rates have continued to rise throughout that program. Housing stock was limited for the range that is eligible for the program. And we've also, had a tough time finding the right people to move through the programs. But we've continued to advertise it. We do have a second family that's just been approved by the financial committee, so that'll be coming to the city right away to complete the process. And we've been trying to get more creative with presentations and who we can promote it to. We've tried to do word of mouth too, to really tap into who could benefit from this program and move into ownership instead of, paying high rental rates, because even though mortgage rates continue to climb, some people can still benefit from buying over renting. And then we have the affordable housing build, which this council has been kept up to date with a bit more because of variations. And the builder was here last month. So Carrington Homes is set to break ground in September, And we did put out a request for proposals for somebody else to take over the build once it's complete. So originally we thought that PCRC could run the building, and then once we looked into the operational funding portion of that, it's not feasible for us as an organization to do that. So different organizations qualify for different pots of funding for affordable housing, which we don't. So, you know, like CMHA qualifies for different operational funding to keep their housing projects going, whereas we would have different access to funds. So we have selected somebody to take over the build, and we're working on the process to sort out the transfer with them. But with that transfer, PCRC will remain second on the title and we'll have a clause in that the units have to stay affordable for 20 years. And there will also be an income verification process annually for any tenants who live in the building to ensure that it's being used for the appropriate person. Yeah. So we're hoping that the build is completed in February, but we all know, you know, construction timelines are timelines and can vary. And yeah, we're excited about it. It's moved along well with Carrington. And then our affordable housing study is being finalized currently, and we are hoping to have it before council in September. And we were happy with how it went, and we think there's some good recommendations that will come out of it.
Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Ms. Kozar. I'm just wondering if you could speak to a couple of the key criteria to qualifying for the Home Roots program.
Sure. So you do need to have a dependent, and so like a child, it can't be a spouse as a dependent, and you do have to have an income under $84,600, and the home that you're purchasing has to be under $275,000.
Thank you.
And there is additional criteria of applying. You do have to submit financial statements and qualify for a traditional mortgage as well.
Question, you know, I'm probably going to ask, which I always ask. Tell me where you've advertised, where people can find this information.
We have advertised on our website, social media platforms, the radio, Portage Online. We did a door drop last summer with flyers to every residence in the city. We were recently on Ryan Espy's podcast. And we've continued to promote, you know, we have a monthly radio spot, so I talked about it last week again. We've Facebook messaged it to people we know who are renting. Yeah. We also give out flyers at our office. We've got pamphlets. We have gone to places like the Portage Learning and Literacy Center when they run work experience program and done presentations. We've gone to realtors' offices and promoted it that way.
Perfect. That's good. I just want to make a comment on the affordable housing build. I really like the idea that PCRC looked at what their capacity is and determined that maybe being landlords wasn't something that you really needed to do when you're doing everything else. So I think it's a good shift to do that, and I like that you're putting in the clauses of all of that. So well done.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Thank you. Councillor Espy?
Thank you, Your Worship. Next up, we have a presentation from the Parks Committee. Rachel Templeton and Melissa Draycott are here, and we are going to learn about the skate park.
Hello, good evening, Council and Mayor and Administration. I'm Melissa Draycott. I'm the chair of the Portage la Prairie Parks Committee. And
I'm Rachel Templeton, the treasurer for the Parks Committee.
so we were asked this evening to join your council meeting and give you a quick update on the skate park, and it occurred to me that this is a brand new council since the last time the Parks Committee has actually attended council. And so just a broad overview of some of the activities that we are doing aside from the skate park as well. But we would like to give you an update on the Portage la Prairie Rotary Skate Park. Rotary came aboard with us on this project for naming rights of it. And we have an exciting announcement that you've probably heard in the media already. But we are breaking ground on this project later on. We were anticipating a mid-August groundbreaking, as you heard in our previous report. However, new updates would put us just after Labor Day. Builders are already in place. They are looking still for some finalizing of details in order to get going on the project. But this is a very exciting project for us in the grand scheme of a recreational hub at 5th Avenue Northwest and 3rd Street Northwest here in Portage la Prairie. So this is a concept that had been worked on for about a decade, and it is the third large project that we have in the recreational hub in that area. So some of the key points that we want to let you know about is, as much as it's called a skate park, this is a skateboard, scooter, BMX bike, inline skating, snowboard, and tobogganing facility. So we were very excited to be able to encompass all 4 seasons with this particular park, or the aspect of this park. It is a 2-phase project. So as you will see, there is a very long piece of concrete there, and then there's a bowl over in the top corner. So the very first phase of this project is the very long piece of concrete. There are many different elements, and I would like to tell you all of the components of the skate park, but reality is I haven't been on a skateboard in over 22 years, and we'll just keep it that way. But there are beginner elements on this, there are more intermediate elements, and then there are a couple things like the bowl. That's like more of a expert type element when it comes to skateboarding. So that's why that is phase 2 that the Parks Committee is looking at, because we wanted to have this go in the ground as early as possible. It has actually gone very quickly for us compared to our previous components that we've put into this recreational hub. And that is in part to the partnership with PCRC, as Ms. Templeton will tell you of some of the great funding that she's been able to acquire through her other employment and her assistance that she's done with the Parks Committee. As well as we've had lots of businesses and organizations come to the table on this one and say, hey, we want to put this in the ground. We saw what you did with the accessible water feature, and we would really like to work with you on this project. So we've been approached by many organizations, and we were just very excited to work with all of them. Things that you should know about this is a completely accessible playground. This element of the playground is also completely accessible. So it is for everybody. It's for the young, it's for the old, it's for those that maybe qualify for both young and old. And so we are very excited to see it. The hill, which is up here, the quarter pipe that you see there, that's a little bit of a berm. That will be the toboggan hill, snowboard hill in the winter. Snowboard hill, it's more for a beginner snowboarder. I have a 14-year-old that would love to learn how to snowboard. It is very expensive to take your family to learn how to do something like snowboarding if you've never done it before. So this is a great entry for anybody in the area. It's an easy recreation that you can go to. It's free, it's accessible, it's central in the community, and everybody can use it. So we're very excited to have this feature go in the ground very, very soon. Very soon. And we're very excited about all the things that are going to happen, and very grateful to the city for partnering with us on this one again. It's so great to work with operations and administration. They've been very accommodating and very easy to work with to get all of our features in the ground as we've continued to work on this recreational facility. So thank you very much. Ms. Templeton's going to give you an overview of some of the money that we've received, and shout out to all of those organizations.
Thank you, everyone, for having us. I, too, have never skateboarded, so I couldn't tell you what any of those things are. So, yeah, it did happen quite quickly. We started with an opening balance with the Parks City Trust account with $100,000 as of January 2022. And now we have enough funding, close to $550,000 in a short span of about a year and a half. And we started off with receiving a CN grant. They have a community grant for $25,000. That was in the spring of 2022. Community Foundation was very gracious and provided $75,000 in the fall of 2022. Co-op Community Spaces provided $67,000 plus the cost of the signage. During that process, they had let us know that this is the highest amount that our area has ever received. So that was great, and they were really impressed with the application. They had noted that it was very well written, and that we definitely featured the highlights of that. Also, we were successful with the Building Sustainable Community Grant for $240,000. That one is a 50% matching grant, so thank goodness we had all those other ones in line to be able to be successful with the Building Sustainable Communities Grant. Some fundraisers, the barbecue, the Canada Day barbecue last year in 2022 was about $2,000. The 50-50 I think was about $3,000. Those don't sound like a lot to you, but they are huge community awareness and acknowledgement too, because you know the lineup at the barbecue to get a hot dog was about the same amount looking at the plans for the skate park. So just bringing that knowledge and awareness helps. We had some wonderful donations from Adam Lee, $1,500, Portage Transport, $7,500, Portage Mutual, $3,000, and coming soon, Principal, $25,000, as well as a Rotary, I think $50,000. So, and some other ideas that we're going to be doing is we might have like a skateboard-a-thon or a skateboard demo, have some, you know, local professionals come show everybody, as well as the t-shirt design, a logo, as well as selling the t-shirts. I think that would be good to celebrate the youth. I think another important thing was youth were definitely consulted with during the process so we could get what their wants and desires were. Probably skateboarders that they were. I think I love how Melissa really emphasized the fact that I think we were successful with gaining so much funding so quickly because we're a great team, first of all, but because we made it multi-use. I think many of the funders are looking at multi-use, like, you know, a skate snow park. I know for the Cocoa Plats, I think that's why that grant was successful too, because we made it a all-season rink thing. So I think, you know, we keep that in mind whenever we're doing grant applications. So we basically have, the budget was for $501,000 for the project, but we know with building costs and labor and materials, that's gonna go up. So thank goodness, because we have about $550,000 to work with. But of course, you also have to include signage and what have you, and other hiccups that come along the way. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did anybody have any questions for us?
Questions? Councillor Meyer?
Go ahead. Thank you, Worship. Certainly no questions. I've certainly seen this project go from bare ground to where it is right now, and I just really want to, again, congratulate you, Melissa, and the Parks Committee and everybody that's been involved in to get it to where it is right now. To see your determination, we know that the important things in our city, of course, are health, education, and I think recreation is right on top of there as well. And just add another piece of recreation in addition to the Cocoa Plats community development. And it really appeals to every area of our town, which is, I'm really excited about that. So I'm really looking forward to the completion of the project, and I'll be there with you watching the skateboarders. So yeah, we'll go from there.
Sounds great. I should actually add that the Parks Committee, I know I like to give this shout out to the Parks Committee as often as I can. This is a combination of a number of different volunteers, and it started as PCRC and Councillor Espy and myself sitting in a coffee shop having a conversation about a splash pad facility, and then Youth for Christ members joined in with the Parks Committee because they also had a passion for recreation and kids in our community, and so that we were able to work together to complete one project. And then we completed a second project, and now we're completing a third project with more projects on the horizon. And this is just a small piece of a very large plan that has put a lot of dollars into a very well-focused, well-thought-out block on our city streets that's used that green space, I feel, for much better than what it was previously used, as well as having other projects take place over those 10 years to increase the capacity of different playgrounds across the city, create new green spaces, add more equipment for more age levels. And that's all been done because a couple of volunteers and an organization with a passion were able to work together with the city to make that happen. So really big shout out to the Parks Committee and all of the volunteers there for their work on this.
I just wanted to give a small update about the wheelchair accessible playground equipment, because I believe Kim came to do a presentation with you. So we are working closely with her. She accomplished a cash calendar draw. I believe she made about $5,000 with that. She was also successful with the co-op Fuel Good Days. So make sure you guys go fuel up on that day. And we're working on more applications for grants for wheelchair accessible playground equipment.
Awesome. Thank you. I just am going to say this because it's been one of those, summer is busy around our city and with, I'm going to say, crime, right? Lots of things, lots of mischief happening, and people often say, what are you doing about it? What is the city doing about crime? What's the mayor and council doing about crime? Partnering with you on a skate park is one thing we're doing about crime, because having our youth involved in meaningful activities and sports and recreation is one way to keep them out of trouble if they're in trouble. So people often say we're not doing anything. These are the type of things we're doing, and I just want the public to realize that. So I give kudos to all of you. I know some of your volunteers and the people involved in this have lived and breathed this idea in their heads and in their hearts for a long time. So it's really nice. It's going to be exciting when you break ground. So congratulations. And when they talk about well-written, we're talking about Rachel. So kudos to you. Thank you.
It was a team effort.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Councillor Doyle.
Sorry.
I just have a question and a comment. My question is, will the park be fully lit up for evening use?
So lighting is one of the things that is on our future radar of upgrades that we need to have. There is lighting in the streets adjacent to the park, and so there is some off-street lighting there. I think we can all agree that lighting is something that could improve everywhere. So it is one of the things that we are looking at in the future. As Ms. Templeton had stated, there is still signage to go up. There are other features in lighting, and proper fencing is one of the things that we're looking at for us as well as for the neighbors. So we would like to make sure that nobody's embarking into a neighbor's backyard on that piece of property as well. So that's part of our future fundraising for sure.
Perfect. And my comment, much like Ms. Draycott, it's been over 20 years since I've been on a skateboard as well, but this is very exciting for me because I did spend my teenage years fancying myself a skateboarder, even though I spent more time on the ground than I did on the skateboard. But we were on a warehouse platform using equipment made out of scrap lumber.
We were there the same time.
We were there the same time. One of our friends' parents had a welder, so we would have these rusty old pieces of equipment, very dangerous. So to see something like this available is very exciting, and I applaud you both and your team for all your work on this.
Thank you.
Rachel, I wonder if Manitoba Hydro cares about our youth.
You must read minds, because I was going to say Manitoba Hydro does do lighting things for nonprofit organizations, so we'll look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us this evening.
Thank you so much.
Closing comments? I would just like to say thank you to you both and all of the members of the Parks Committee that have been around through this for the better part of the last 10 years.
Thank you. Any other questions on community services? Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of little gems from our library that I've been asked to put forward because it is summer. There's a lot of activity there. So first of all, the painting is going ahead. As you know, in our last budget, we're doing painting of the square, and they're very excited there. They're going to get some signage. So the look of the library will even be more enhanced, I believe. Interesting, since April, the busiest 15 days of the year are occurring since June 22nd. So they've had a lot of activity there. There was a record-breaking 248 children signed up for summer reading, a a 25% increase over last year and a 61% increase in new kids. That's great. That kids, you were talking about children, it's great to see their participation there. The other exciting thing, I think, is that they've accessed an accessibility grant. And one of the things in there, apart from the shelving, which I've talked about, is they're going to be bringing in books in the most commonly spoken languages in our area. So German, including Hungarian German, I hope I said that right, Spanish, Punjabi, Tagalog, and Ukrainian. So there's really a push to reach out to our community and make them feel that this library belongs to all of our citizens. So just a couple of things I wanted to make you aware of. They are, hopefully next council, I can update you on the survey or the survey they're doing and the work with the consultant on reaching out to see what it is about our library we like and so on and what we want to see changes in. So I'll have hopefully more info on that. But just amazed at how our library continues to reach out to our community to make all of our citizens know it's a special place for Portage la Prairie. So thank you, Your Worship.
I'm just gonna comment on that. If you haven't been to the library lately, and when I was on the library board, we often talked about a public library being a safe space in your community and a safe space for anyone to go and feel welcome. And if you go there any day right now, you will find a very large group of youth that are there, that are not taken by their parents, that are not, there for a program. They're there to hang out and read and be with other youth. And they do that because it's a welcoming, safe facility. So I give kudos to our new director and staff and board for going in that direction, because that's, again, what we need in our community, those type of spaces. And a shout out for community services. We just had our 19th annual Potato Fest on the weekend. Very exciting. It was busy. They managed to, I wasn't there on Saturday night, but the rain for some reason loved Portage la Prairie this weekend and, didn't love us, stayed away, I guess. So it was great. Kudos to that, again, small but mighty committee that puts that on with a whole group of volunteers. Again, another difficult job as a mayor. I had to work as a team to pick the cutest potato baby, which is a hard challenge. But it is their 20th anniversary next year, and so I heard some little insight on some things happening, and I think it'll be an exciting year for our community. So kudos to them. Okay, Waterworks Committee, Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Your Worship. Waterworks Committee has nothing in committee to report at this time.
Thank you. Transportation Committee, Councillor Porter.
Yes, I just got a question, or I'd just like administration maybe to clarify the update on Saskatchewan Avenue. And I'm not holding anybody against the date or anything like that, just letting you know that. But people are just asking approximately when would both sides of the avenue be open to be drivable from 7th to 20th. Are we looking at maybe this year, or are we looking at, depending on well, of course, weather, but is that something maybe we're looking at this year? I know that the repaving of the one side, but it's the repaving of both sides. I think it's people who, like me, are directionally challenged when you bring up the updates about the south side, east side, and the north and whatever. I think basically, just want to clear that maybe for the community to see when we're looking at it approximately to be able to drive down Saskatchewan Avenue from 7th to 20th, say, using both sides of the avenue.
Turn that to administration or our director of operations, whoever wants to.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Porter. I will pass that on to our Director of Operations to give you the exact dates.
Well, no exact dates. We can't hold to it.
Approximately.
No exact dates, of course, but well, I just wanted to say, so we're going to start paving on the north lanes the first week of September. We're paving up to 15th Street, and then we're starting excavation on the south side from 15th Street, moving east.
Yep.
While that excavation's happening, we're going to be paving the rest of the way up to 20th on the north side. And once they're done the excavation on that 15th to 7th, they'll move over to 15th to 20th. We wanted to separate that section out just in case weather gets bad and we didn't want to have a big hole in the middle. We're hoping that we're going to have it all the way done to 20th this fall, but we're just hedging our bets a little bit. But we will be done up to 15th this fall for sure.
Okay, and that's just what everyone was wondering, if it was all being done together or we're just going to do one long piece at a time. So it was a little confusing that way. But, and I know it's been a very challenging and exciting project for most of us here. And again, some of us will never see this again in our lifetime because it's a one-time thing for your sewer changeover and fixing and replacing. And as I drive down this area daily, I can't help think how much planning and daily planning and weekly done to keep our residents, our visitors, our businesses, and especially our contractors and workers safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the toughest part of this job and what takes a lot, because people don't realize that part has to be when you're doing changeovers and you're closing, making decisions on closing roads and continue on with something else, going on to the next one. And I know everybody's in a hurry to get it done, but I think that's the part they don't see. I'm sure there's daily safety meetings, daily, weekly, monthly safety meetings to plan this. And I'll tell you, like I said, watching those guys work out there, that's a tough job. That's a really tough job to do. I know I couldn't do that. And like I watched them in that heat and the rain and yeah, but it's going to be great and it looks great. And kudos to everybody for making this happen. And for further information on this, and thank you for clarifying, because I made a big difference to my vision of what's going to happen next. But if you want more information or future information or updates, please visit our city site. And I've been asked about this, but need to go onto the City of Portage and go under City Hall. And under City Hall, there's projects. And under the projects, there's they showed various different city projects on the go, but most importantly, on the bottom, click on the maps and images, and it shows what Saskatchewan Avenue from West Elm to 7th Avenue is going to look like, and it's worth a look because it actually shows our buildings. And I think there's a lot of people that don't realize that you can click on those maps and images because they've never ever seen it. So I just like to send that message out to everybody, and thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you. That was
Thanks, Jocelyn.
good information, Terry. Yeah. Thank you. Awesome. Public Safety Committee, Councillor Doyle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to speak a little bit about the urban policing grant. In late July, we received some notification from the province that our funding for urban policing grant was being increased by 28%. So this new funding was in recognition of significant increases in RCMP contract costs, inflationary pressures, and over 6 years of frozen funding for policing services. So for our city, what that means is just shy of $414,000 in additional funding for protective services. So being that this is fairly fresh news to us, the City Council will be considering how to best utilize this funding going forward in consideration of our strategic plan and the development of our community safety and well-being plan that we're working on. I'd just like to really thank AMM, the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, and our fellow municipalities for their united voice in lobbying the province to increase policing grants in light of significant cost increases over the last 6 years. That is all I have for committee today, but if anyone else has anything public safety, you're welcome to add.
Sure. For those of you who may have followed along, our province, the City of Winnipeg, just hosted the World Police and Fire Games over the sort of long weekend period there. And we actually had a hockey team that consisted of mainly Portage la Prairie and Thompson RCMP members. And they got a silver medal. So congratulations to them. And on another note, and just that we have like sort of royalty here, that our administrator's sister from the city of Brandon got a gold medal in CrossFit at the World Fire and Police Games. So some pretty athletic people around here. So congratulations to them. What's that? Or being related to them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Does anyone have anything else before we adjourn? We will adjourn committee at 7:46 p.m. Thank you everyone for coming.